The General Services Administration is in the third phase of its multiple award schedule consolidation. The 24 existing schedules are merging into one streamlined multiple award schedule contract. Emily Murphy's the administrator of GSA. Emily, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Give me an overview of where we are as we head into phase 3 of this.
Thanks, Francis. I'm really excited about what we're doing with the multiple award schedules. We started off when I became administrator with about 14,000 companies or contracts divided between 24 different schedules. Phase 1, we came up with a consolidated consolidated contract that had standard terms and conditions, and we announced that at the end of the last fiscal year. We then said we're going to start transitioning companies to that new single schedule contract, and we've got 99% of them on board. Now that beat our own goal of 90% by the end of last month, because industry has been embracing it and our customer agencies have also been embracing it. They love it because it makes it so much easier for both vendors and customers to use our contract vehicles. Phase 3 means, though, that we're going to have to take the remaining 1% of companies that have multiple schedules and work with them on the best way to transition. And that's going to take longer because we don't want to take away a BPA that an agency is already relying upon, or that a vendor has won. So we're going to continue to allow those to play out as we move new work to a consolidated schedule.
How are you going to do that? How will you make sure that the companies can continue doing the work that they're doing, that the agencies will continue receiving the goods and services that they need to, but you can still achieve this goal of consolidating these last very few contracts, it sounds like?
So we're going to take the time to do it correctly. So if a company has a BPA, we're not going to take that BPA away. There's nothing that an agency can't purchase off the new consolidated schedule that they were able to purchase previously. In fact, it's a lot easier to buy off the new schedules than it was off the old schedule. But if they've gone through the process of making that initial award and putting a BPA in place, we're going to continue allowing task orders against that BPA until it resolves, at which point in time the new work would go under the consolidated schedule. That could take up to 5 years, but I think that a lot of the work is going to happen faster.
How do you make sure that over that 1 to 5 years, whatever it takes, that this all stays on track? It strikes me that these are the kinds of places where a detail could get lost, the bubble could pop, and you wind up a couple of years from now with loose threads out there, Emily.
I don't think that we're worried about that because, again, we're finding both the customer agencies and the vendor agents and our vendors are pushing pretty hard to get to that single solution. It makes it easier for both of them. It means that they've got fewer terms and conditions. It means they've got only one contracting officer that they're dealing with. It means that they've got a much easier process for aligning what they're doing with the North American Industrial Classification System. It makes it much easier to figure out when they can use other direct costs on their schedule contracts. But it's a much simpler process. It's not just GSA doing this for GSA's sake. This is something that we heard from our customers and from our vendors that they really wanted. And so they're continuing to push us to be successful. So I'm not worried that we're going to have those loose threads out there because, frankly, the BPAs will in and of themselves just expire. And as they expire, they'll be replaced with a BPA against the new schedule.
How have you built this so that you don't have GWAC creep, that we don't wind up in 10 or 15 or 20 years with a bunch of them out there?
With a bunch of schedules or a bunch of GWAC?
Well, with a bunch of schedules.
So because we now have embraced everything under the one schedule, it's much, as long as it's a commercial item or commercial service, we can bring it in. And the NAICS codes themselves cover pretty much anything anyone will ever want to buy. There's no reason to create another contract vehicle. Now, what I would be more concerned about is some sort of special item number, subgroup, creep, where we start adding more and more of those as special features. I don't think that that's going to be as much of an issue either, though, because a contracting officer isn't going to necessarily need to do that. Let me give you an example. Previously, if I wanted to place an offer that included parts of my professional services schedule and parts of my IT Schedule 70 schedule, I had to have both contract vehicles. And I needed to go through the process of doing that. Now I just have to make one offer and it's one contract and I can pull it all together pretty quickly. So I don't think that anyone's really going to be advocating for us adding more to that. It frankly would add more complication for both the vendors and for the contracting agencies.
My apologies for fumbling the terminology in the question. I have GWACs on the brain at the same time we're talking about schedules, because this week your colleagues at GSA talked about what will succeed Alliant 2. Last time you were on the program, you talked about why you canceled Alliant 2. What do you want to build in whatever succeeds Alliant 2, whether you call it Alliant 3 or name it something else?
And I know better than to try and name GWACs myself. But what I'm hoping is that we're going to have a GWAC that embraces a lot of small businesses, including HubZone and women-owned small businesses that don't currently have a GWAC that directly recognizes them right now. And whether that means we have pools that are reserved for those companies, or we've got, or we have seats reserved on the GWAC, is one thing we want to explore with industry and figure out what the right approach is going to be. But I want it to be a modern statement of work, so that we're able to bring in the latest and the greatest in technology and really meet our customer agencies' needs. I also want it to be a contract vehicle that allows small businesses the ability to grow. And as they move out of a category, that there's an on-ramp and an off-ramp, so that they remain successful GSA vendors well into the future.
All right, Emily, stand by. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment.